And we are back in the Catalyst studio with candidate for mayor Pete Boland. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I'm just happy to be here. It never gets old talking St. Pete.
All right. How's life on the campaign trail?
Busy, nonstop. We just started hiring some more staffers and announced our fundraising. We're over $50,000 here in the first 3 weeks. So I think anybody that thought I was going to be a distraction, they're going to be real disappointed that I'm going to be here to stay. And we're really pushing along. It's really just energizing the way people are responding to us, and I'm excited about pushing our subjects forward, talking St. Pete first, and we feel really good about what's going forward.
Thank you. So our topic today is the character of St. Pete and how, as mayor, you'll preserve and augment that character. And as we are wont to do, we break it down into 3 items to talk about. So let's dig in with thing number 1 you would do to preserve our character.
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is we need to preserve and protect our waterfront. The waterfront park system is one of the greatest assets we have here in our city, if not the greatest asset. You think of some of the founders and fathers of St. Pete, like Mr. Snell, Howard Snell, that did what he could to make sure that we always had that land protected and belong to the public. So that's something we really need to take care of. Make sure we're not giving it away to some company from Tennessee that wants to take over things like the marina, or make sure we're not too intrusive about what's going on, so that we're fostering the arts community in with this, making sure we have a lot of our big events along the waterfront like we've been known to have. I like to return to that stuff a lot sooner than maybe some other folks would. So I think the waterfront is a big part of that first piece to the puzzle, Joe.
And along the waterfront, one of the topics that's been talked about a lot lately is the marina. And if a company even locally ran it, one of sort of the decision points is keep the smaller slips or go for larger slips to allow for bigger boats. I.e., with people that are coming into town with more money, and that's a balance that will walk in St. Pete in a lot of different arenas. So, what's your general philosophy on balancing, the small slips versus the big slips?
Well, I think that if you talk to the people that live in the marina out there, as I have for many times over the years, those are people that are kind of living a dream a little bit of one day wanting to sail around the world, and they do that as an affordable housing option. There's a lot of people that have chosen that lifestyle. They're kind of minimalist. They don't need the big McMansion like a lot of folks need. So I think that keeping that kind of small town village feel that they have out there is huge. As the GM of Corrigan's, like I was for 6 years, I got to know a lot of those people many, many times and spent many hours with them. So I think that's part of that kind of affordable housing cocktail, and that's just a very unique thing here in St. Pete. So I think the city can manage the property itself, or bring in a management company that keeps the money within St. Pete. I don't like the idea of bringing in an out-of-state company, and I also don't like the idea of the mega yachts. There's plenty of places for that around St. Pete, or even on the other side of Pinellas, where people can do stuff like that. It sounds like a great place for the South Tampa people to do something like that. But I think that's an important thing, is to make sure that we're maintaining that kind of local feel, and to make that a real affordable housing option. And I know Phil Graham has talked a lot about that from the Waterfront Parks Foundation. Just little crazy things like they're trying to do, like adding all these parking spaces that we don't need for that space over there. And I think we're on the right track, it seems, of kind of thwarting these current plans and coming up with some new ones.
All right, let's move on to the second thing.
Well, as a St. Pete native who spent a lot of time in places like Allang Field and Tropicana Field, going through and played baseball and practiced baseball at the Busch Complex, which is now Northeast League over on 62nd and the Cypress Links Golf Course. We have a long, storied history with Major League Baseball, a 105-year relationship. So I think to preserve this history, it's important for us to save pro sports and to keep sites like Allang activated. Save Major League Baseball here, and then with the Rays ownership of the Rowdies, these are very shrewd guys. The soccer is a growing brand here in the United States. As a guy that owns an Irish pub, we have great crowds for soccer all the time at Mary Margaret's. So I think it's important for us to save pro sports. It's a big part of our identity. We were the home for minor league baseball for over 100 years, and they're moving their offices to New York City, which is sad and bittersweet, but we understand they've got to do what they've got to do. But we're also kind of the birthplace of spring training baseball, and people named that stadium after Al Lang in 1947 as a credit and a tribute to him and in all the work he did. For some people that don't know where the women's club is, right over Coffee Pot, that was where the first baseball field was in St. Pete. So we've just got a deep, rich history with Major League Baseball and pro sports. The Miami Dolphins actually did their first ever spring or summer training camp at Bogosiega High School. So like, there's just we've got a deep tradition with pro sports here, and I'd hate to see them go. And I think it's a big part of our identity and a big part of our city's civic pride.
And a key piece of the discussion with the Trop is the stadium and the cost of the stadium and how much public money should be used for that stadium. And with that, people either, they'll say, what are we going to get back for it, right? And so when you look at the intangible benefit of having a team in town, that, with regard to the use of surrounding restaurants and shopping and just tourism and things like that, how do you answer the question about using public money and that ROI from doing so?
Well, the main thing to me would be no new taxes, right? It seems to be we have a lot of money already there. They put this kind of money in a lockbox for a long time, as this stadium issue is a tired issue. We're in year 14, and whoever wins this race will be the sixth mayor that has to deal with this thing. So I think that the money is there. The political will seems to be over here. I think we can kind of get some regional partnerships in and mixed in. And with this idea of the new 21st century stadium and the prospective idea of having this the split season concept of Montreal, it's not going to be as expensive as they first thought. We looked at a $900 million price tag for the Raybor City project that was over there. I don't think it's going to be quite like that. I don't think they need as many seats as they once did. I think the idea is going to be in this great 21st century TV studio. But I also think that whatever happens at the Tropicana Field site, whatever type of ballpark we have, it can't be like what happened in Miami. It can't be like what happened with the Florida Suncoast Dome. It can't be like what the idea was 14 years ago with Al Lang Field. The Al Lang project was just really poorly conceived in that it disrupted things like the Saturday morning market. It disrupted the race. It disrupted the neighborhood over there, and it dredged up part of the bay and eliminated Bayshore Drive. So we've got to make sure that we're smart about this stuff and connecting people, making sure that I always talk about Hanlon's razor. People do not attribute to malice, which can easily be attributed to incompetence or ignorance, and a lot of people are just ignorant about the concerns of other people. They're not out to get anybody, but we need to get people together to know what the stakes are. And let them know that we kind of all want similar outcomes. And so I'd like to see whatever happens on the Trop and whatever happens with the stadium to have a community benefits agreement that has teeth to it. You look at some of the success around the country. The Staples Center in Los Angeles is one of those hallmark success stories of a CBA. And I'd like to take a real hard look at stuff like that, how we can strengthen and have a really great community benefits agreement.
All right, cool. Let's look at the third and final item.
The third and final one is to continue to foster the arts. Make sure that we're not pricing our artists out of this community. You look at the resurgence of Central Avenue that happened over here the last 2 decades. All that started with subsidized storefronts from the city to make sure those art studios and all that glass was getting blown here in the city, and just really kind of fostering the arts community. So I think we really need to keep that. We're number one mid-sized city for the arts. I think that's an important feather in our cap. We need to make sure we continue to do that. So in that cocktail, it needs to be affordable housing, right? We need to make sure that we have attainable housing for those artists so they can continue to work in St. Pete. I love what's going on in the Warehouse Arts District. That needs to be a coveted and cherished neighborhood, and it should be on anybody's map when they come to St. Pete. I'm very pleased to have worked with people like Derek Donnelly that are really outspoken leaders for the art community, and I would want to continue those partnerships to make sure we keep that vibe, that funky, fancy vibe. In Austin, they say, I think that's a city we're competing with a lot, is Austin, Texas. They say, keep Austin weird. Well, I'd like to keep St. Pete funky in that way.
And when you talk about people coming in to St. Pete, making sure that WADA is on their list of places to visit, how do we accomplish that? What's the role of the mayor's office in placemaking St. Pete digitally, branding it, and marketing it out to the country and the world?
I think it's that 21st century strategy of really pushing a strong social media message, participate in all these events and all these conventions around, bringing leaders in, having international art competitions like we've been wanting to have lately, and just really be the greatest cheerleader for St. Pete. When we talk about, being St. Pete first and greatest cheerleader for St. Pete like I do, or the biggest public advocate, it's not limited to one thing. It's like, hey, and anybody says anything, it's like St. Pete's the best. No, hey, we can do that too. Bring us over here. And it's about using that kind of the pulpit and that soapbox as best you can, like similar strategies we talk about with the Galley or Mary Margaret's. There's a lot of crossover in that diagram as far as what we've done in hospitality, and I look at Tampa Bay is this destination, kind of like downtown St. Pete is a destination, and then you have things along the way that you can kind of be within that destination. Like, I know that when someone comes downtown St. Pete, they're not only coming to the Galley, they're not only coming to Mary Margaret's, they're going to go to other places, especially if they're out of a night out in the town. So if we have this idea of being this great destination for things and for like the arts, that we continue to foster those good relationships, we continue to have great events like Pride and the Mainsail Arts and the Sunscreen Film Festival, all these types of things that should be iconic with our city, and we need to champion and cheerlead those and be omnipresent with that stuff and talking the good gospel of how great St. Pete is.
All right. Candidate Pete Boland, thanks for stopping by on my mayor.
Can't wait to be here again. And I always love it, Joe. Thank you so much.